Hey.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hey. Welcome back to BioTalk.
What was that?
Wow. It's funny because that's exactly what I think of when I think of a series.
I don't know why. I don't know. I just, for some reason, I just wanted to break away from the norm. Everybody, I didn't want to be a sheeple or a normie like the rest of you.
I was doing it for some reason.
Screw the norm. The norm is for posers who aren't as cool as me.
That's why I wear a mask instead of a face.
Instead of a face.
Instead of a
Yeah.
face.
Instead of a face.
2016.
That's right, guys.
I wear a face all the time.
I am the Joker. I got my face taken off.
That was like totally like a year and a half ago. Get up with your comics, yo.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
It's been a while
Guys.
since I've been on one of these things.
it's been a while since either of you have been on. Literally, the last 2 episodes, we had to scrabble around to find someone to join. So, nice job, guys. You really helped us out there. Audience, direct your hate towards these two. Just both of them. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to be on the screen,
Here for the
but just wherever they are, put your hate towards them.
I don't want you to hate
Anyway,
them,
let's-
but I mean, it's their fault.
Hey, listen, Buckaroo Banzai. That's against YouTube's new terms of service.
Listen, Buckaroo Banzai. I'm Barteran.
I'm messing it.
I'm LJ.
And I'm Buckaroo Banzai.
And this is BioTalk Book Club.
The finale of season 2.
Yeah. It's the ultimate.
6 months in the making.
I love how it's like, yeah, it's probably the longest season of anything we've done to date is like,
Probably.
I
When we
mean,
started
come on,
doing this.
guys. Recent reviews.
Well, fair. Those are like 5
I mean-
months.
Okay, sure, I guess. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Listen, this is the end, the final chapter. I'm glad everybody could be here for this audience. We'll see you never.
Likewise.
right.
And for this book, we're going to wrap this up with a quick little overview of what happened this chapter. This was chapter 7, I believe. I don't know the name of the chapter.
It's
Chapter
6.
6.
Forgotten. Chapter 6. Insert name here.
The heroes reunite.
The heroes reunite.
The heroes reunite.
You now owe me a frappe.
Nice.
Don't steal my joke, please.
It's not
Anyway.
your joke.
I mean, technically it kind of is.
Here we go.
Listen,
Recap the chapter.
this chapter is... I'm getting to it! I literally just started it and you decided to scream! This chapter is all about the Protectors meeting up with Akimu. It's really cool and stuff. Protectors bow down to him and he's like, my Protectors, insert names here. You guys haven't aged a day. You look exactly the same since I left you. And then it turns out he's full of crap because they're not even the same people. So either Akimu's racist or he's going blind or senile. Either one.
Why not all
But
three?
regardless, well, all three. Akimu's a racist, senile, blind person. I mean, it makes sense because the light doesn't actually pass through his eyes. So
Yeah.
there you go. The Protectors are like, sorry, Akimu, but we're not the same Protectors. And Akimu's like, oh my gosh, I should be the one saying sorry. And they kind of have a little banter back and forth. Akimu shows them the bodies of the dead Toa lying on the ground. Nah, just unconscious. And the Protector's like, oh no, what's happened to them? And Akimu's like, it's okay, they'll be fine. Don't worry about them. It's all right. It's all fine and dandy. Freaking Harvali comes into the room. She's like, hi guys. Sees Akimu. She faints, passes out, falls on the floor. And everybody's like, well, didn't expect that to happen. Neato. Akimu's like, hey guys, I got these masks. I'm fixing up the mask. Like, I see that the masks are broken right now. Don't worry, I got that. I'm already putting power back into it. The Toa are gonna be okay. So they go into the forge. They get the new mask. They bring the Toa back to life, or rise them from their unconscious state. And the Toa kind of interact with the Protectors, like, nice to see you again, Korgo. Korgo's all like, yeah, bro, it's been a while, yo. And they fist bump. And then Akimu's like, yo, everybody, let's go outside and light it up, yo. So they all go outside. they go outside of the forge. Harvali wakes up. They're all there. Harvali's like, don't worry about me, man. I'm not gonna pass out this time. She's a lightweight. And they go out and they light it up.
Wow.
They light it up and some fireworks go flying into the air, and it's like this old cannon that he built it to last, he says. It's full of crap. It's been 1,000 years or so. I guess it was made in America. Built to last, am I right? Ford. You totally were built to last. Ford. Talking about you. What about GM? Is GM American? I don't know.
I'm actually.
I believe
Yeah,
it's
it is.
American.
It is.
It's
General
American.
Motors. Yeah.
Also sucks. So.
Great.
So he launches the fireworks from his old cannon, and cool, there's like fireworks and stuff. It's like Tahu and the Protector of Fire that lit the fuse, so it was kind of a nice little thing. Akimu's like, yo, this party ain't rocking enough. We gotta get everybody up on this island in here, yo. So he's like, yo, Tahu, Toa, rest of y'all Toa, come over here and light this with me. And so they all gather around, and they use their elemental powers to increase the range of the fireworks so that everybody on the island can see it. And it's this big, nice, rejoice party thing. Cool. And then the chapter kind of skips ahead a little bit to, I guess, the following day or whatever. They've rebuilt the bridge that connects the island to the city of the Mask Makers. And it talks about how the Toa helped out. Anua's gone across it a couple times, so Akimu has nothing to be afraid of. And then the rest of the populace of the island starts to appear, and they're approaching the island, and Akimu's all like, yo, we gotta make sure that we don't let evil prevail. And by doing that, we have to throw a rad party in this island, dog. So everybody starts to come on board. They start their party, and right before that, Akimu has some like PTSD of Makuta, and he's like, I know you're still out there. You will not wreck this party. I will refuse to allow you to call the cops on us. Screw your noise complaints. And that ends the chapter.
And the book.
Wow.
And the book.
Okay.
Moral of the story, kids. Okoto is basically a giant college party.
Yeah.
The University of the Mask Makers, am I right?
University of the Mask Makers.
Oh,
There you go,
boy.
straight out of Okoto, coming to a record store near you.
That's a parody waiting to happen.
Fight the police.
UNMM, yo.
Fight the police.
Fight the police. Guys, this was a good chapter, right? It was okay. How do you guys think this did as far as wrapping this book up? Everybody okay with this?
I don't know.
I'm
I think
okay
the
with
best part definitely was when the Okoto Matoran oh gosh, dang it, Okoto Matoran. The Okotans are playing like beer pong. Yeah, that's definitely the best part, the highlight.
I mean, like, I
They're
don't
all getting
like...
turned.
Normally speaking, I don't like things that end in parties from a book perspective. You know, it's like whenever they try to describe the party, it never feels as great. I think the only thing that really matters is if characters you wanted to see interact and have not interacted, if they come together and they're like having like back and forth some good times, and it's like, okay, it still feels a little cheesy and out of place, like Mass Effect.
Yeah.
I mean, you say that, but I feel like most people would have preferred a party at the end of Mass Effect than what we got.
Well,
So.
no,
I
that
would
DLC. That DLC where we got to plan that party, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
and
that was
Citadel, yeah.
cool,
About the party.
but it felt a little out of place, felt a little weird, you know?
Just a little bit.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't know. Really, the only issue that I had with this chapter is something that we pointed out last episode.
Yes. I already done the research
and-
on this.
Okay, you prepared? Cool. Because I was worried about this when I read the last chapter, and now it kind of confirms my fear. So last chapter I brought up the point, like, if we're going to be following the timeline, shouldn't the Protectors have been there at the end of the book, the first book? And I was like, well, we'll see how that handles out. So continuing on to this episode, we now know, yeah, the Protectors should have been there. There's not really an excuse why they weren't. So, Meso, did you read the chapter again, I'm guessing?
I got the quote
The original book?
both from the original book and the new book right here. The first book ended with Tahu waking up. Akimu handed him his golden mask. He put it on, and he turned, and he saw all the Toa standing before him. And they got into like a mini conversation about like the forces of evil. Whereas in this book,
That did not happen at all.
in this book, Ikimu puts the masks on the Toa. They wake up and they sit up, and the Protectors moved closer to the Toa. As in, they're still sitting, and the Protectors immediately talk to them. So, congrats,
Tahu
guys.
Yeah.
Plot hole.
Not a plot hole, it's just a continuity error.
You know,
it's
right.
an inconsistency.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only way it could be rationalized. There's this one little stretch here. It says, one by one, the heroes awoke and sat up. The Protectors moved closer to the Toa. in between those two things, the Toa waking up and the Protectors moving closer to them, you could have that 4-sentence conversation from the first book and maybe make it work. Like the Toa talk to themselves, and Gali says, "Trust us to save the island. It is our duty, and it is our destiny." Pause. How are you doing, Onua? That's the only way it could really work, but that is possible. It'd
Fist
be
bump,
awkward.
Corgo.
It'd be awkward, but it could work.
Speaking of awkward, didn't this chapter wrap up the whole, hey Vizuna, after this is all over, there's something I need to talk to you about?
Yeah, that
thing?
was stupid. They had kind of mentioned
was a
that
little
throughout
weird.
the book, and it was just very
I mean,
underwhelming.
the unfortunate
You kinda-
thing is
you
that
kinda
could
thought
not
they were
have
like-
ended well. By setting that up, there was no good ending. Because one of two things are going to happen. Either it was going to be a red herring, and they were just going to do what they actually ended up doing, or it's going to be, Vizuna, I love you! And it wasn't that.
Yeah.
There was no way that was going to
Flamebow.
end well.
I mean, to be honest, I kind of think I would have preferred the love thing because that would be new to Bionicle. You know,
Yeah, fair
not
point.
new-
Fair point.
it would have been sort of a cliche, but like we haven't gotten that kind of cliche before in Bionicle. There has been no like we know love exists now, but we still haven't seen that. So that
Yeah.
would have been interesting to set up. I don't really like the red herring that we did get. Kind of lame, honestly. Just kind of using each other as weapons. And do you really need like training for that? I don't know.
Not particularly.
I mean, I guess so, but just it doesn't really seem necessary. It kind of seems like a weird conclusion to that setup. Like, why did we even bother with that dialogue there?
Yeah. The other thing of note, of course, we've already spoken about this in a podcast, but like the names of the ancient protectors in this book
Right.
not being the same as in the graphic novel. That's a big deal.
So, are these the names that Ryder Windham gave you in the interview?
Yes, these were the names
Okay.
that he presented, and then come to find out the graphic novel had
In the graphic
different
novels,
names.
not like that. Right. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
It's a
That's weird.
mystery for the ages.
Weird little editing inconsistencies. It's like it really does feel like Lego kind of just got a hold of Ryder Windham's like notes and not the actual story. And was just like, oh, that sounds right. We'll take that out of the
That's what
notes
it
that were
seems like,
meant
yeah.
for only him. So
I don't know.
I don't know. It was an interesting chapter. Certainly an interesting way to wrap up the book. Really not much happened. I mean, you can kind of summarize what the book is going to be about in the first chapter when you see like the protectors kind of doing their own thing, fighting skull spiders, and then looking over the cliff at the Toa in the distance.
That's basically
Literally
whole
the premise of the book. That's the whole book.
Right.
The whole thing is the protectors doing their own thing with the Toa in the distance.
Yeah.
So the entire book, they're kind of trailing behind the Toa. They always kind of find the aftermath of what happened in the first book. Sort of neat, sort of okay, I guess. I feel like they
Repetitive.
could have played on that a bit more. Yeah, it was a little repetitive because we already got this story before. It's just at a new perspective, which, to be fair, really could have worked. I feel like didn't quite live up to the potential it could have had. But I don't really blame this book. I kind of blame the last book
Yeah,
for
the
not
last
really
book
having
was
much
not
that
good.
happened in that. So yeah, I guess we can do just individual opinions. LJ, what did you think of this chapter?
And the entire book, or just a chapter? Because I feel like we should do the entire book. I feel like this chapter.
We should probably do the entire book. Individual opinions of the entire book. Let's do
Okay.
that.
Awesome. So I actually, after reading through this again and thinking about it a little bit, I feel like this book was a colossal wasted opportunity. Because I was just thinking, that ending, they have the fireworks, they have all the Toa, everyone's happy, they defeated the bad, at least for the time being. That's a Monog ending. Monog almost did that exact same thing. They beat the bad guys, there was a looming threat still, but they had fireworks at the end. This book, it should have just been the Okoto Online game. That's exactly what it should have been. It was written fine for it, but for what it was a decent story. It's a nice break from the norm. We don't often get to see the villager and the protector perspectives, and we likely won't any longer, considering we're having Journey to One, and that's focused on the Toa, and a lot of it is going to be more Toa-centric if Bionicle continues. So having this perspective, having this insight, and getting to see a little bit more of the world is quite refreshing. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I really like this book. I think people should definitely try and pick it up if they can. But I really would have liked to have seen that as a game of some kind. Because I think this was really, it was well gauged for that. So that's all for me.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Kai, you can
Messa,
go-
what about you? Kai, you go first. Messa's been here for like 2 weeks.
Exactly.
I was gonna say that like I'm kind of on the same board of LJ. I think like the thing about this is that I was really looking forward to this book. I really wanted this book because I wanted to see a perspective from the villagers, from the protectors, going through, and even just going through the final part of the last book. I thought would be really interesting. I think the main thing is that like this book doesn't offer us too much that's new, and I feel like that's where it kind of falls short. This book could have been used to really show us the side of Dakota that we haven't seen before, which is its villagers. Talk about how, do some world building, how each village is differently governed, all the different opinions the leaders have of each other, all the different stuff that they could have done, different drama going on between. I feel like there wasn't enough world building done in this book, and there wasn't enough character building done in this book. And when you came to the end of it, it's like, well, what did we really learn? And not really too much. We know there's an archaeologist. We learned there's a little bit more about the backstory. But things like the backstory, things like, where the skull scratches came from and all these glyphs and everything, they all seem to be things that will be answered in the main story. And in the book, I'm always looking for like stuff that you're not going to see in a cartoon. The book is longer, and so you're able to put stuff about, little details that won't make it into any other thing. And so I feel like that has been a bit of a missed opportunity here. I feel like this kind of tells this side adventure that's not really interesting. I could skip reading this book and not miss out too much from Bionicle, and I feel like that should be, it should have expounded way more, should have taken that opportunity. So that's my thing with this book. Everyone sounds the same,
Yeah. I'm kind of in agreement with you there, honestly, upon thinking about it, because it's not like they didn't do anything that I wanted. Like, in the book, we got a new named character. We got to see the perspectives of characters we weren't going to see in the main story. We got to see Rahi-esque creatures like cliff vultures and giant snakes. And we got some insight, which at the time of this book's release was new, about like the Festival of the Masks. That's an event we didn't know about. The creatures being the omen that prompted Ikimu to use the masks and make the masks or whatever. We didn't know about that either. So at the time when it came out, it was very good for what it did. But as time has gone on and I've reflected on this more, now that we're at the end of this series, nothing really happened that was worth noting. When I hear the title Revenge of the Skull Spiders, I would think that maybe it was going to be a Skull Spider-centric book, not with them as the main characters, but maybe we would learn something about the history, some critical piece of info about them. But they showed up for
we didn't
like
learn
2
anything
chapters.
new about the Skull Spiders.
No.
Not a single new thing.
Spoilers for Halo 4. Random. But this is a point I'm making. The Didact fell into a pit at the end of Halo 4. And they brought him back in a comic, only to then send him off again. I feel like that's what they did with Lost. It's like in the main story, we had this dude, it was implied that he died, but did he really? Maybe we could stretch this out into like a piece of supplemental material just to kind of give us an adversary. So let's bring him back, but then send him off again to maintain status quo, so as to not contradict the main story. That's all I felt like that was. Which, in part, is genius, because you were able to use a plot point from the main story that LEGO may not have ever gone back to again to make a book, but at the same time, from a fan perspective, it was all fluff, because nothing of worth happened to actually affect the main story. It's kind of like Marvel TV versus Marvel movies. It's like always reactionary. Based on what the movies do, it trickles down into the supplemental material.
Yeah.
That being said, like I already said, it's not like it was pointless. There was stuff I liked. And overall, I definitely liked it better than the first book. So it's not like it's a waste of an experience. If you're a Bionicle fan, get the book, read the book if you haven't already.
Yeah.
But 7 out of 10. The first book was like a 5.
Yeah, I think I would have to really echo everybody's opinions here. Most definitely yours, Meso. Kind of on the same boat there. It does feel like there are definitely aspects of the book that I liked, parts of it that I liked. I like the fact that we had slower moments. I like the fact that we had these other characters that weren't the Toe. We got a chance to meet and kind of interact with, sort of, even if they were kind of bland characters and they kind of all sounded the same a little bit. It was still nice to have, but it does feel like there might have been some wasted potential, because this really didn't matter much. They kind of did just bring a villain back just to kind of get rid of him again. He was sort of just there to have some kind of conflict in the book.
Anything. He was trapped.
He didn't do
silk.
anything. they literally brought him back just to kill him again. So it's like, yeah, the Skull Spiders had no real point in the book either. We didn't learn anything new about them. They were kind of just there to be a part of the book. So we could just reuse some things we already had before.
One chapter they were fighting cliff vultures. Another chapter they were fighting skull warriors. It wasn't even about the Skull Spiders.
Barely about the Skull Spiders. They were just kind of a presence that were just there, but we didn't really. I mean, they never did anything. The most we learned is that they can act independently of loss. That's it. That's all we learned. So, yeah. I mean, I guess that's a cool, neat thing to learn, but it didn't really matter in the end because all they did was bring Lost to his death. It just escorted him to his destruction. So it's like, all right, well, I mean, that was kind of useless.
It also contradicts what we know about the Skull Spiders, because if they were like, what we know known is that Lost has a psychic link or uses a golden mask, depending on your story preference,
mask
in order to control the Skull Spiders through telepathy. But Lost is knocked out, and yet they're still doing stuff to serve him.
I mean, maybe they have like Spider Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, we don't even know if Lost is a Skull Spider himself.
Spider sense, Spider strength, Spider Stockholm syndrome. You know.
And it's just like,
idea. Maybe they've been in captivity for so long. They just like, Lost, we can't live without you.
And at the end of the day, the story that we get in this book is basically the same story we got in the last book. It's just here we get a few extra details of that same story. So it does feel kind of lazy. It does feel like we kind of wasted a book that we could have spent maybe back at home, back with the rest of the Protectors, like learning what their life is like, defending from Skull Spiders, building turrets. Like the more interesting parts of book one, could have explored that more for a whole book, rather than just have the Protectors that we already know go and discover the same story that we already discovered ourselves.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It does feel like wasted potential. It does feel like there could have been more to it, and more opportunities to tell us this other stories, to help us know Akodo and kind of build Akodo more as a thing, more world building.
You know what really gets me about not just this book, but kind of this book, this book and the story year and BioNICLE 2015 as a whole. I don't want to write fan fiction for any of it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a point in BioNICLE G1 where you would write fan fiction. You're like, I want to write about this, and then like BZ Power would have these contests where you could write about.
There's no inspiration for anything.
Yeah, I don't feel there's any room for me or inspiration to write a fanfic. I can't even write a fanfiction about my own villager because I don't know what the villages are like at all. There's no there's nothing there. There's no guidelines.
That kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying, because this book, I feel, would have really worked as an interactive game. An interactive
I support
media.
that completely. It would have been the Protectors traversing across the island in order to meet up, and they would have that, just like Monog, that ominous feeling like the Toa are doing something in the distance that you don't see.
It would have just been the later half of Monog, though, and that's not even the better half of Monog. Yes. We don't get any of the build up from the first half, where he's exploring the different villages and stuff and interacting with the villagers and learning about the culture of the island. We only get the part where they're going to fight the bad guy.
You could have had the Protectors going around helping out some villagers before, like, while the Toa.
I mean, yeah, but then you do a different book. But I get what Var's saying. It's like this book directly translated will not do as well. You need that whole build up. You need the entire thing.
Yeah,
you need the atmosphere of Monog, and that's
it's not possible with what we've been given.
True.
I guess the last thing I want to say is, like, I know it's improper to look at these as a trilogy, because in reality they're 3 disconnected books. But, like, if we're going about this, like, by the BioNICLE book trilogy, the first one was a rehash. The second was a waste of time. We've got one more try. One more attempt
I bet the third one's going to be a wasted rehash.
Yep. Spoiler alert, we've already got a preview for book number 3. Kolta is there. So
Kolta's
I'm optimistic about it. I am, bring it.
We'll see.
All right, season 3 of Book Club.
Season 3 will be more consistent about this one. Don't worry.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. This book was okay. Overall, a wasted potential, I think. And I think I would go with the 7 out of 10 score as well. It's not like it's a bad book. It's just like, there are other stories that could have been told that would have been more interesting. So
yeah, I feel solid 7 is good for me.
Yeah. So hopefully the next book will be a bit more more entertaining, but
Substantial.
I mean, hey, it was still good. Like, for what we were given, it was still okay. It's still worth reading for me, so. We will see you guys next time, though, for season 3 of Book Club
Get hype.
with the next book. Do we know the name of the book?
Escape from the Underworld.
There you go.
Yeah,
Ooh,
there we go.
That's an interesting title.
That's cool.
Yeah, I wonder what that'll be about.
That'll be the
we'll
afterlife,
see you guys.
the Bionicle afterlife, and they're coming back. The resurrection.
That will be interesting because we haven't gotten anything like that before. So, not with Bionicle at least. So, it'll be cool. I guess we did get Karzani, but that was a little different.
Yeah.
It wasn't really an
Yeah.
afterlife. It wasn't really an afterlife though.
Bye, guy.
Anyway, we'll see you guys. I'm Bar,
I'm Mesa.
I'm LJ.
And I'm Kahi.
and this has been BioTalk Book Club. We hope you enjoyed everything, and be sure to check us out at Vessel. If you're watching the webcam version, you're already on Vessel. If you're not, and you're on YouTube, we have a webcam version of the show where you get to see our faces as we interact and talk with the show. So be sure to sign up for vessel.com/TTV channel. It's only $3.99 a month, $19.99 a year, and you get to see our beautiful faces and other stuff as well.
You should make
So
this
thank you.
part available in video and the YouTube part. Like, this plug is the only
that's
portion.
that's an idea.
Yeah, right? And then be like, oh, cool, I didn't know that. Yeah, you should do
I'll
that.
do it.
I feel like that might be so much of a tease, but yeah, we can do that.
Awesome.
Bye, guy.
I don't want to tease you guys too much, but I like the idea, so we'll do that. Bye, guys.
See ya.